What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat here in the building, and today I want to give my breakdown and prediction for the milestone pay-per-view of the decade, the third 100 UFC event pay-per-view in UFC history. I don't know if I'm saying that right. UFC 300 stacked from top to bottom. And I got it on this screen. We're talking about all of these fights. Usually I'll just talk about like the main card or one fight from the prelims. I'm talking about fights from the early prelims all the way to the, main prelims to the main card. So many big names on here. And we got 12 champions, former or current, competing on UFC 300, which is insane. We got Jamahal, Alex Pereira, Zhang, Weili, Xiaonan, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, Oliveira is back, taking an Arman Tsarukyan. No one cares about Nickal, Cody, Brundage, but it's here. Prochazka's on the card, welcoming back Rakic, Sterling Kattar. I mean, the list goes on and on. Legends and pioneers of the fight game are on this card. And I'm going to kick off these predictions with Deivison Figuieredo versus Cody No Love Garbrandt. Seems like Cody Garbrandt's finally kind of finding his stride, finding his way back. I think he's like 3-5 in his last 8 fights. He's picked up 2 wins recently, but against who really? I mean, Trevin Jones, where he didn't look that good in the fight, got hurt in round 3. He knocked out Brian Kelleher, fair play, but I mean, Brian Kelleher is mid. He really ain't all that, but if you're someone like Cody Garbrandt, for Cody Garbrandt standards, you should be beating the level of competition he's been facing lately. But whenever he's been stepping it up against really good competition, he's been losing. He's been folding. He's been getting knocked out. He's been getting jabbed to death to a decision by Rob Font. The only fight where he showed a granite chin, really. But he's lost by knockout, I believe, like 4 times and 1 decision win. But now he's taking on Deivison Figuieredo, which is an extremely dangerous opponent for Cody Garbrandt, because Deivison Figuieredo is a former champion. He has knockout power. He's got good striking and really good athleticism in comparison to a guy like Trevin Jones and Brian Kelleher. Now, yes, his chin could be a room for concern here, but that was mainly because he was struggling with the weight cut in the flyweight division. And that's mainly the only reason why he really has those 3 losses that he has. I mean, he was injured against Jussier Formiga, and the 2 times that he lost to Marina, he was nerfed. But when this guy is healthy, he's very hard to beat. And we saw what he did to the guy who beat Cody. He destroyed Rob Font. Cody Garbrandt got destroyed by Rob Font. And I just think that this is a bad matchup for Cody Garbrandt. I know Cody Garbrandt's bigger. He's taller. He does have crisp boxing. He's very fast. Lately, he's been very patient in his fights, which will definitely be ideal against Deivison Figuieredo. Cody Garbrandt, for as good as his boxing is, he's not the greatest when it comes to controlling range, throwing a bunch of outside strikes. He's got a very short reach, shorter reach than Deivison Figuieredo, and a lot of the times he needs to close the distance to land his combinations. And sometimes he does leave himself open when he's going on the attack, on the offense. When he's going first, he's there to be hit, he's there to be countered. TJ Dillashaw exposed that. And Deivison Figuieredo is very dangerous with his counter punching. And as much as I like Cody Garbrandt, this is a big opportunity. If he can beat Deivison, who's ranked number 8, that's 3 wins in a row. And then he's 1 win away from a title eliminator. And then he could potentially be in the talks for title contention for the first time since 2018, 2017. But unfortunately, man, I don't think that's going to happen. I think at some point Garbrandt's going to get caught. I think he's going to try to be patient, throw kicks from the outside against Deivison Figuieredo. Davison's going to take his time, and whenever Cody Garbrandt blitzes, Deiveson's going to time a big right hand on Cody Garbrandt and get the knockout. Probably in the second round. They'll have a boring first round. Round 2, they'll open up. And Deivison Figueiredo, when it becomes like an exchange and when it becomes a scrap, is when Deivison Figueiredo is going to get the knockout. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I think Cody's going to go back to his losing ways. Now moving on, Bobby Green versus Jim A10 Miller. I mean, if this fight even happens, it's been booked like 3 times. All 3 times it fell through, and I think it's because of Bobby Green. I mean, the UFC spent 10 years trying to make this fight, but let's see if 4th time is the charm. I think this fight's cursed. I've always kind of thought Bobby Green would win this fight just because he's got the boxing. I mean, he's got the length. He's got the height. And he does have a good wrestling background. His takedown defense is pretty good, and Jim Miller is a well-rounded guy who can mix it up, take guys down. He's got good jiu-jitsu. But he also has good hands too. But Bobby Green is coming off a bad, brutal knockout loss, late stoppage against Jailin Turner. He's rushing the comeback here, and Jim Miller has been looking really good. Like, he's 5-1 in his last 6 fights. He's been knocking people out, dropping people, then submitting them, not just taking them down, dropping guys. And Jim Miller can crack. Bobby Green fights with his hands down a little too much. He gets a little too cocky, and he does get hit. And I feel like Jim Miller, with that takedown threat, in the back pocket, I feel like he could use that. Have Bobby Green worried about the takedown, and he can catch Bobby Green while Bobby Green has his hands down, chin up in the air. I see Jim Miller winning this. I think this could be Jim's potential last fight, and it's on UFC 300. He won on 100 and 200. I think he's looking for that 300 W. I think he's going to get that 300 W. I would not be surprised if Bobby Green wins, because stylistically he should win. But I'm going to go with Jim effing Miller on this one. I'm trying not to cuss on my channel as much lately because my mom watches these videos. So yeah, trying to keep it clean, PG. But yeah, Jim A10 Miller gets the win. Now moving on, Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. This is a pick'em fight. I think Andrade should win, but I think she's going to lose. And here's why I think she's going to lose. Because Jessica Andrade does not wrestle in her fights anymore. I don't know why. She used to be known as the pile driver. English for, the Portuguese translation, bate estaca. Because she picked girls up and slammed them. When she was getting pieced up by Tisha Torres, what did she do? She mixed up the wrestling, dominated with the wrestling, used a grappling heavy approach against Claudia Gadelha and Mulder. She tried to wrestle Rose the first time, not so much the second time, and wrestled Caitlin Chukagian, but lately she's been content to striking. Didn't shoot a single takedown against Aaron, understandably so, because Aaron's a good wrestler. I don't think she tried to wrestle Murphy, and I can kind of get why she didn't try to wrestle Murphy, because Murphy had no threat in the stand-up, but didn't try to take down Yan Xiaonan. I picked her to beat Yan. She just tried to bang it out, stand and bang against the more technical striker with the height and range advantage, with the speed advantage, with the footwork advantage. So I think she's going to try to strike with Marina, try to chase that knockout against Marina, and unless she lands a Hail Mary, she's not beating Marina in a striking match. Where Jessica Andrade is going to be trying to land these big looping hooks, Marina Rodriguez is going to be putting that jab, using that reach, landing that jab, finding a home for that jab on Jessica Andrade. That jab is money. So with that jab, that's going to be a good range finder, won't let Jessica get close. And I see her frequently countering her down the middle with that jab 1-2 every time Jessica Andrade is trying to load up for those big hooks and overhands. Her kicks are nasty too. Marina has good leg kicks, good front kicks. I think she's just going to keep Jessica at bay with the jabs, with the teep kicks. And if they do end up in the clinch, there are openings for them knees. And Marina Rodriguez's clinching game is nasty. So I think Andrade, unless she wrestles, which she won't, I think she's going to get pieced up in this fight, kneed to death. leg kick to death, teep kick to death, jab to death. And Marina Rodriguez honestly might find that knockout on Jessica Andrade because, I mean, even though she's tough, she's relied on that chin for so long. And I feel like it's kind of expired. We saw that against Xiaonan. I know she had a fantastic win against Mackenzie Dern, but Mackenzie Dern in hindsight sucks. And I should have seen that coming. I feel like that was always a winnable fight for Jessica Andrade, even with Andrade on the downfall. But I do think the downfall of Andrade is going to continue on April 13th. She's going to lose again, like she's been losing for the last year, because she's going to try to strike with Marina, and it's just not going to end well. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Maybe Andrade lands the big bomb and knocks out Marina. Marina doesn't have the best of chins anyway. Lemos was able to knock her out. But I'm not relying on the 1 in 10 chance of Jessica just catching her versus Marina Rodriguez putting a striking clinic on her. So yeah, I got Marina winning this. And then Jailin Turner versus Renato Moicano. Man, Moicano has been going on a hell of a run. I mean, he's been on fire since moving up to the lightweight division. I mean, he was doing good in the featherweight division. You know, he had that one loss to Ortega, but then was beating everyone else. But then he lost to Aldo Zombie and lost by TKO in both those fights. But it was apparent that it was the weight cut that was really hurting him in those fights. He found his home in the lightweight division. He's been looking good, and he's undefeated in lightweight. That RDA fight doesn't count because that was not in the lightweight division. It was like, I think at 160 or maybe 170 on short notice. But yeah, he's been looking great, but so has Jailin Turner. You know, Jailin Turner, I think he has only 2 losses at lightweight, one to Matt Frevola, and then another to Dan Hooker, I believe, which that was a close fight that I believe was decided by some knockdowns of Dan Hooker. I mean, he did get beat up by Dan Hooker. This is going to be a really good, interesting fight, but I am going to lean the way of Jailin Turner in this matchup because for as good as Moicano is, his striking's good. He can pack. Oh, wait, never mind. Moicano's not undefeated at lightweight. I'm tripping. Fiziev knocked him out. Never mind, but that's his only loss at lightweight. But nonetheless, even though Moicano is well-rounded, he can strike, he can punch, he can kick, and he can wrestle. His jiu-jitsu's good. And takedowns, grappling, that is his best path to victory to beat Jailin Turner. That's how he did beat Drew Dober. I think Jailin Turner is going to be a lot harder to wrestle than Drew Dober. Something tells me, you know. Let me just go on UFC.com real quick, just to look at the stats. Just to see Jailin Turner's takedown defense ratio, just to make sure that I'm not tripping, just to make sure that, like, I do know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I feel like Jailin Turner, takedown defense wise, is going to hold up. Let's look at the grappling here. Okay, 75% takedown defense. That's not bad. I think he's got the size. Again, hard guy to take down, and he's very dangerous on the feet. I think he's too dangerous for a guy like Moicano. Moicano doesn't have the greatest defense. He's there to be hit. He was getting rocked by Drew Dober. But Drew Dober, shorter. He's a short, stocky guy, so it's easier to see his shots coming and get away from them, or to close the distance on the shorter guy to get the takedowns. But Turner, he's got power like Dober, but he's got the reach. He's like 6'3", long arms. So he's going to be able to hit Moicano at a long range, you know, at a distance with those long punches. Moicano might be able to get a takedown or two, but I just don't see Moicano being able to, like, maintain control or even get a submission unless he hurts Jailin Turner. So if he gets a takedown, Turner gets up. But ultimately, he's going to struggle to get the takedowns consistently, and I think the stand-up favors Turner. And Turner put up a really good fight against Mateos Garbrandt. He had Garbrandt hurt in moments. Look at the way he brutalized Bobby Green. I just think in hindsight, Hooker was a bad matchup. I should have seen that coming. But I think he should be able to beat Money Moicano. But if Moicano wins, wouldn't shock me. I stupidly picked Dober to beat him. Shame on me. But I do think Turner's going to get it done. And I do think that he's going to get the finish. Now, moving on to the main prelims, Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. I'm going to go with Diego Lopes here, man. I mean, this guy has been on fire. Only one loss in the UFC to Movsar Evloev, but he had Evloev hurt in moments, had like close submission attempts. His next fight after that, he smoked someone in the first round, got a first round sub, and then knocked out his next opponent brutally in the first round. Sodiq Yusuff, I'm not really that impressed by Yusuff. I mean, he hasn't looked good in certain fights. He didn't look that good against Bruce Leroy. Wasn't able to finish him. Didn't look that good against Andre Fili, who Ige was able to put to sleep. And got fraud checked by Edson Barboza. And I just think Diego Lopes is a better prospect than Sodiq. I think Sodiq is kind of beyond the prospect phase. I don't really see him going as far with his potential as, Diego Lopes. I think Diego is a bigger threat in the stand-up. I think he'll have a durability advantage, something tells me. Whereas Yusuff, he's been hurt multiple times. He doesn't really have the greatest chin. He just has good recovery. So if he does get connected on by Diego Lopes, I could see him getting rocked and subbed. I'm going to say Diego Lopes clubs and subs. Super Sodiq Yusuff. Now, Holm versus Kayla Harrison. This fight's going to depend on one factor, one ultimate factor, and that's going to be if Kayla Harrison can make the weight and be healthy. If Kayla Harrison can be healthy while cutting weight, she will win. And I'm going to bank on that. I'm going to bank on Kayla coming prepared. She spent months keeping her weight low. So if Kayla Harrison is anything like she was at lightweight or featherweight in the PFL, she should beat Holly. Because let's be real, man. Holly Holm is spent, way too inconsistent. I mean, I know she doesn't really lose 2 in a row. I mean, she's lost 3 in a row. After she got her undefeated record taken. But then since then, it's been win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. But yeah, I think she's going to lose 2 in a row. She's coming off a loss to Mayra Bueno Silva, where in that fight, she just didn't look good at all. She was getting touched up, pieced up by Mayra Silva, who, as we learned in Mayra's last fight against Raquel, is not the greatest boxer, and she's putting hands on Holly. I think Kayla Harrison can impose herself, impose her will in the stand-up, connect on Holly at will. Holly's going to worry about the takedowns, and then when Kayla's able to get a hold of her, I think she can get the fight to the ground and dominate Holly Holm on the canvas. Kayla's just a younger, fresher fighter, and a lot of these fighters who make their UFC debuts, like these big names outside of the UFC, like Ben Askren, Michael Chandler, MVP, they're all successful. And I think it will be no different with Kayla Harrison, but we'll see. If her weight cut goes horribly, then she'll definitely lose this fight. Now, Aljamain Sterling versus Calvin Kattar. Man, Calvin Kattar should win this fight. He's got the size advantage. His striking is easily better than Aljo, and I've always said that I don't think Aljo would do good in the featherweight division. He's too small. He only did well at bantamweight because he's able to weight bully everyone. But I just got to trust my gut with this one, man. I have a weird feeling that Aljamain Sterling is going to succeed in his featherweight debut. I just can't explain it. I just feel it. And also, Calvin Kattar hasn't fought in 2 years. He's coming off a bad knee injury. And we saw it happen with Thiago Santos when he was coming off a layoff with an injury and had to fight a grappling heavy opponent. He folded to Glover Teixeira. And I think with his knees probably not being 100% recovered or just not being anything like they were before the injury, that might deter his takedown defense. And I think Aljo in the featherweight division is going to be more filled up. He's not going to be depleted. He's going to be a lot stronger moving up in the featherweight division, which will help him be able to work his grappling. So I'm going to take Aljo winning this fight by a decision. I feel like he won't be able to finish Kattar, but I just see him imposing his will with his output on the feet combined with wrestling. He'll do good on the stand-up because he'll have the threat of the takedown, and Calvin Kattar starts slow. Aljo starts fast. Calvin Kattar usually waits for his opponents to finish their combinations. He doesn't really capitalize and counter like, Sterling's last opponent, O'Malley. He'll kind of wait for Aljo to finish. He made that mistake against Max. And by the time Aljo's done with his combinations, boom, level change into a takedown. And I just see him maintaining control, throughout each round to win a decision. But we'll see. Calvin Kattar can make me look stupid in this one, but I got to go with Aljo. Now, moving up to the main event of the prelims, Jiri Prochazka versus Aleksander Rakic. I got Jiri Prochazka winning this fight. I don't really understand why so many people are picking Aleksander Rakic. You got to factor in the layoff, and he's coming off a bad injury. I mean, yes, we've seen some fighters bounce back from an injury layoff. I mean, Ortega was able to do it, but that was against the same opponent who he had a stylistic advantage, who he should have beaten. I do think Rakic was going to win the rematch with Jan, but I think Jiri Prochazka is a worse matchup than Jan Blachowicz. I just think that Jiri Prochazka, man, he's coming in this fight with a chip on his shoulder, coming off that Pereira fight where it was stopped early. I thought he was done dirty in that matchup. He's coming for blood. And I just think style for style, I just think Jiri matches horribly for a guy like Rakic, who has a low output style. Low output, it looks for like a single shot counter, whereas Jiri Prochazka, on the front foot, he's always throwing these extended, long-ended combinations in which I do see him catching Rakic with those fast, extended combos. Rakic does have decent defense, and Rakic, he's got a very patient, effective style. He's boring, but he's effective. But the way he fights, I just don't see it working on Jiri. Jiri will not let him fight in that low-paced fight. He's going to bring the fight to Rakic, kind of like Jan Blachowicz did. I see him connecting on Rakic a lot, the way Jan was able to do. What does worry me in this fight, though, are the leg kicks of Rakic. And Alex Pereira was beating up that front leg of Jiri. And we'll see if Jiri has been able to kind of tighten up his low kick defense. I mean, I know he'll be prepared going into this fight. I mean, he's had now 2 camps to prepare for leg kick heavy kickboxers. But I just don't think Rakic is anywhere near the level of striking of Alex Pereira. He doesn't present the same level of danger on the feet as Pereira. Now, Alex is dangerous. And even off the back foot, he can be dangerous. He does have power, but not the same kind of power as a Poatan Pereira. Just the threat, the consequences of overextending against a guy like Rakic aren't going to be there like they were against Alex Pereira. And then even with Rakic having some wrestling in his back pocket, I don't see him really having I don't really see him succeeding at being able to dominate Jiri with the wrestling. Jiri Prochazka does have good takedown defense. He held his own up against the grappling offensive Glover. So I think he'll be just fine if Rakic tries to take him down or stall him out against the clinch. If he gets taken down, he'll get right back up. I think this fight's going to be primarily a striking match. And I just think that Yuri's going to win this fight just via pressure, output, and just more damage. I wouldn't be surprised if Rakic won this fight. But I've just always thought that Jiri was better than Rakic. Like, for years, when this matchup was in talks back in 2021, when there was a debate, I've always thought Jiri Prochazka is sort of the better version of Rakic. More exciting, more dangerous, and apart from the grappling, I just got to favor Jiri in this fight. So I'm going to go with Jiri probably by a decision. I could definitely see him knocking out Rakic, but I feel like this fight's going to go the distance. But again, via output, via all that pressure and damage, and Rakic trying to make it boring and lacking the output, I think it's going to cost him. And I always pick Jiri Prochazka, man. I'm like a loyal ride or die for Jiri. I picked him to beat Poatan, maybe when I shouldn't have. I had him beating Glover, and he's came through for the most part, apart from the Pereira fight. But like I said, I always pick Prochazka. There could be a bit of bias, but that's not going to change, especially for this fight. And I do think that the activity advantage for Jiri is going to play a factor. He's fought more recently, and I do think ring rust will definitely affect Rakic. I just think Jiri's going to be more switched on early and have a faster start in this fight. Maybe Rakic could pull away with round 3, although I doubt it, but we'll see. All right, moving on now to the main card. So we got Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. No one cares about this fight. Bo Nickal doesn't belong in the main card. I hope he loses for that reason, because this guy is so freaking entitled. He literally threatened to retire or leave the UFC if he wasn't put on the main card of UFC 285. We could have seen Brunson versus Duplessis on the main card of that fight, but we got Bo on the main card and a future champ like Dricus on the prelims, which is very stupid. But whatever, Bo Nickal's gonna win because Cody Brundage is just not gonna be the guy to beat him, and Cody Brundage is literally handpicked he's handpicked for Bo by the UFC to make Bo Nickal look good. But the odds of this fight are crazy. Bo Nickal's a minus 25,000 favorite. Cody Brundage is a plus 1,000 underdog. God damn, imagine there's an upset, but nah, I got Bo. Now moving up the card on the lightweight division. Man, I want Charles Oliveira to win, and it pisses me off because I don't think he's going to win this fight. He was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev for the title in the rematch, and he botched it by being an idiot and not wearing headgear, getting himself cut, and he's coming in again with another cut, but this time isn't pulling out. But he botched his title fight with Islam. Islam and the UFC, they're not interested in rescheduling that rematch. I can see why, because Islam already beat him so handily. He's going backwards now against a dangerous, surging Arman Tsarukyan. And I'm just feeling, I can't say an upset is in the air because Arman's actually the favorite, but I'm just feeling Oliveira is going to lose again. He beat Beneil. He looked great in his last fight against Dariush. But Arman Tsarukyan, he did it better against Beneil. He blasted him with one shot under a minute. Oliveira, it took him towards maybe the end of round 1 to get a TKO versus Arman, who under a minute got a clean knockout. But even just MMA math aside here, let's just put that to the side for a second. I just think style-wise, Tsarukyan is bad for Oliveira because you got a guy who won't be afraid to go to the ground with Oliveira. Arman Tsarukyan has a massive wrestling advantage over Oliveira. He's very physically imposing. So he's going to go for the takedowns against Oliveira. Oliveira doesn't really have that good a takedown defense. And I think even on the mat, he can hold his own against Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Oliveira wasn't able to submit Beneil Dariush from off his back. And I feel like anyone with a good ground game can take Charles Oliveira down, hold him down, and be safe. Oliveira wasn't able to sub Michael Chandler from off his back. And Michael Chandler's a physical specimen, much like Arman Tsarukyan. So if they're on the ground, I can't see Charles Oliveira whipping up a submission. And Oliveira always pulls guard when he doesn't need to. And that's what bothers me about Oliveira. I feel like when they clinch up, Oliveira is going to pull guard. And then Arman Tsarukyan is just going to hold him down. Now, on the feet, I think Charles Oliveira is very dangerous for Tsarukyan with his pressure. He does hit hard, and I'm going to talk about the Joaquin Silva fight. Yes, Joaquin Silva did rock him with the left hook. Oliveira's got a nasty left hook and a nasty right cross. Oliveira could definitely chin Arman Tsarukyan, but I think Arman Tsarukyan's going to be very smart defensively on the feet. He's not going to get in any wild exchanges with Charles Oliveira. And I think every time Charles Oliveira tries to pressure, close the distance, Arman's just going to grab him, get him in the clinch. Charles Oliveira is going to pull guard. And then when they're on the ground, this is where I think it's going to go downhill for Oliveira. I think Arman's going to open up that cut that Oliveira suffered in camp. He's going to open up that cut with them vintage Arman Tsarukyan elbows. The way he sliced up Joel Alvarez, I think he's going to do that to Charles Oliveira. And it makes me sad to say this, man. But that cut's going to reopen. Oliveira's going to be leaking everywhere. And Arman Tsarukyan's more accurate with his ground and pound than Beneil Dariush. So he's not going to miss with those shots. I think he's going to get battered on the ground by Arman. And then I think potentially when they get back on the feet, if Arman doesn't finish him on the ground, I think he'll finish him on the feet after softening up Oliveira on the ground. So I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan. Round 3, TKO. I think round 1, Oliveira is going to try to put on that pressure on Arman. Arman's going to clinch him. Charles is going to pull guard. Arman is going to hold him down for the rest of the first round. Oliveira is going to be safe on bottom in round 1, but round 2, I think Arman's going to open up that cut, smash him on the ground. And I think going into round 3, they're going to be standing up. Oliveira will not be the same. He's going to be chinnier going into round 3, and I think Arman's going to find that chin. Charles gets dropped every fight anyway, and again, Arman is one of the few guys who can fearlessly go to the ground with Charles Oliveira. He will go to the ground with Oliveira after dropping him, and he will finish him. But I hope I'm wrong, though. I really want Charles do Bronx to win this fight. But I can't pick with my heart. I got to be realistic in this one. I think Arman's going to win, and then he's going to go on to fight Islam next. But we'll see. Now moving on. Justin, the highlight, Gaethje versus Max, Blessed, Holloway. This is another heartbreaker one, man. I'm not really picking many underdogs on this card, but a lot of people are going for Holloway to win. I hope he wins. Maybe there's a chance he could win. Maybe there's a chance that he could drag Justin into deep waters and Justin Gaethje gasses out and he melts him late. Maybe he'll work the body of Justin Gaethje and just chop him down with combinations and maybe get a TKO in like the 3rd, 4th round. But I don't think that's going to happen. And here's why. Because Max Blessed Holloway was not able to do that to Dustin Poirier. I know that was 5 years ago, and I think this time Max is going to be more prepared, better conditioned for lightweight. But still, he wasn't able to beat Arnold Allen in that fashion, and Gaethje's better than Arnold Allen. And Korean Zombie was touching him up and tagging him. And yeah, he knocked Zombie out cold with one shot, but Zombie is old, chinny. Zombie's spent. Justin Gaethje is still in his prime. And in some fights, Gaethje has been getting better as the fight has went on. You know, there's been fights where you started slow, picked things up round by round. And I just think against a guy like Max, to beat a guy like Max, you need to be a big puncher with really good boxing. And you have to be able to throw whenever Max Holloway throws. If you wait for Holloway to finish his combinations, then you're going to fall behind. But Justin Gaethje is not going to let Max Holloway build. He's not going to let Max Holloway snowball on him. And with that power Gaethje brings to the table, it's going to force Max Holloway to fight cautious and fight at a slower pace. And because of that, I think Gaethje's cardio will be fine. I mean, Gaethje was able to go in the late rounds with Tony Ferguson. I think he'll be able to go in the late rounds with Max if he needs to. And I think those leg kicks of Gaethje are going to be a huge problem for Max Holloway. It won't allow Max to really be able to sit down on his punches the way he needs to, especially once those leg kicks start to settle in. Once the damage from the leg kicks settle in, I don't think Max Holloway is going to be able to turn up the heat against Justin Gaethje. And I think every time he tries to engage against Gaethje, Gaethje's going to meet him in the middle with a big punch, a big counter. Yes, Justin Gaethje can and does kind of overswing in moments. Max could capitalize. It could get Gaethje tired. But I think Gaethje's going to come in this fight with a very composed game plan, manage his gas tank, and Max Holloway is going to try to stick and move, skate around the octagon like he did against Arnold Allen. And it's just not going to work on Justin Gaethje. Gaethje's just going to batter up his legs and do more damage in the exchanges. He's just going to punch Max harder than Max is going to punch him. And I do see the damage kind of adding up as the rounds go on, kind of like the Tony Ferguson fight. And I see Justin Gaethje probably winning this fight via doctor stoppage, maybe a corner stoppage, maybe the corner throws in the towel because Max is getting beaten badly. Because I don't see Max getting flatlined in this fight, but I just see him getting beaten up and just being too tough for his own good. But I got Gaethje winning this one, late stoppage, maybe even a standing TKO where he just wobbles Max Holloway and Max is just out on his feet. Gaethje's punching him up against the cage. And the ref stops it. But unfortunately, I think Max goes 0-2 at lightweight, and Gaethje remains the BMF champ. But I hope Max Holloway wins. That's my boy. But I can't be biased here. I think Gaethje's winning. And I think this will be a classic example of how Holloway fumbled by not waiting for Ilia Topuria, because he could have got the title shot at featherweight and maybe beat Ilia. Instead, now coming off a Gaethje loss, he may never be the same again, and he may not even be in a position to fight for the title again in the featherweight division. Who knows? Now, moving on to the co-main event in the strawweight division for the strawweight championship of the world. Magnum Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. I got Magnum Zhang Weili winning this fight. It's going to be a very straightforward pick. I could jinx it, though, by being so confident, because who knows? This could be another one of them. The underdog seems just so easy. They're going to be a pushover for the favorite. Then the complete opposite happens. I had those vibes for Namajunas Rebus, and that was a close fight. I had those vibes for Sterling O'Malley, where everyone thought Aljo was just easily going to run over O'Malley, and then O'Malley knocked him out. I should have picked O'Malley. I didn't feel that way necessarily for Strickland Adesanya, but I was worried about that. But I don't get those vibes from this fight. I just think, like I said, Zhang is just so much more superior to Yan Xiaonan everywhere. I mean, in terms of stand-up, in terms of striking, I think Yan Xiaonan actually might be slightly better, but Zhang Weili is more well-rounded. She's got the option of being able to mix it up and wrestle. Zhang Weili's got more power, so I believe every time they do get an exchange, when it does become a scrap, Weili's going to get the better end of it, land bigger, harder punches, kind of like the first Joanna fight. So she'll win on damage, takedowns, control. And I'm going to go with Weili by decision in this fight. I don't know why. I feel like if she wins, maybe round one, she'll like have a fast, aggressive start in the stand-up where she tags up Yan Xiaonan, then maybe past the first round, Weili kind of fades a little bit, but just kind of wet blankets Yan Xiaonan for like the last 4 rounds. Kind of like Nunes versus Duranami, or even Nunes versus Pena 2, where Nunes came hard early with the striking and then wrestled late once she started slowing down. That's what I see happening in this fight. I see it being another title defense for Zhang Weili, and Zhang Weili just further cementing herself as one of the greatest of all time in the strawweight division, and then loses to Tatiana Suarez in her next fight after that. But yeah, Zhang Weili gets the win here, and still, but if an upset somehow happens in this fight, I mean, I'll be surprised, but I won't be surprised at the same time, because we've seen crazy things before. Upsets have happened before. The last time Zhang Weili had to defend her belt in the month of April, by the way, she lost her belt. So we'll see, but I don't think history repeats itself here. All right, now moving on to the main event. Finally, Alex Poatan Pereira versus Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. Oh my gosh, I've gone back and forth on this fight for months. Originally, I've always thought, man, Hill would destroy this guy, but I don't know. Alex is weird like that. Every time I pick against Alex, he wins. Every time I pick him to win, well, not every time. Actually, every time I pick him to win, he comes through, apart from the second Adesanya fight. But I don't have a good track record of picking against him, so I'm just not going to. I had Jiri Prochazka beating him in the last fight. Initially, I thought Alex was going to win via leg kick damage, and then he was going to catch Jiri overextending. I changed my mind, and then we saw what he did to Jiri. So I'm just not going to change my mind. I'm locked in here. I think Alex is going to win. I just think Jamahal coming off that Achilles injury is just not going to be good going up against a dangerous calf kick heavy kickboxer like Jamahal Hill. I think or like Alex Pereira. I think Alex Pereira is going to target that injury. I do think he's going to kick the crap out of the calves of Jamahal Hill. Now, Jamahal Hill, I believe, does have a boxing advantage over Poatan. He does have better hands for sure. And Pereira doesn't have the greatest boxing defense, especially off the back foot, which does worry me for him. He doesn't have the greatest chin either. He was getting hit a lot. By Yuri Prochazka, but I just think that round one's going to be a bit of a feeling out process. Alex is going to be able to roll with the shots, not get hit too cleanly, and just pick at the calves of Jamahal Hill, work the body of Jamahal Hill. And I think as the fight goes on, the damage will kind of settle in where Jamahal will kind of slow down. He won't be able to sit on his punches the same way. And Jamahal Hill, man, is not the most reliable when it comes to his defense. I watched that Glover Teixeira fight today. Glover was tagging him in moments. And also, Johnny Walker was finding a home for a lot of those kicks, especially the leg kicks against Jamahal Hill. So I do see him not only getting just out leg kicked, but Pereira landing a lot of body kicks in this fight. You know, disrupting the boxing of Jamahal with his kick-heavy style, with his kick-heavy approach, and Jamahal just not being able to find the chin on time before those calf kicks slow him down. So I'm going to pick Alex Pereira to win this fight. Round 3, TKO. I think the damage to the legs and body will add up, and I think Jamahal Hill is going to get desperate when he's behind on the scorecards, and he's going to end up chasing the knockout like Jiri, and he's going to find himself getting tagged coming in. I see this fight being similar to how Jan stopped Dominic Reyes. I think Alex is going to finish Jamahal Hill, Jan Reyes style. I hope I'm wrong, though, because I love Jamahal Hill. Outside of Jiri, that's like my favorite light heavyweight, and I really want him to get the belt back. I really want him to go on a legit title run. It's sad the way he lost his belt by getting injured, never getting to defend the belt, never getting to put the belt on the line. But I think he's going to end up like Yuri Prochazka and lose this fight. And Alex, for the first time, is actually going to defend a belt, because last year he failed to defend his title against Izzy. But I mean, a big part of why he got KO'd is because he was drained from that weight cut. So it was bound to happen sooner or later. But Alex Pereira has found his natural weight class. He's at home in the light heavyweight division, where he's going to be a little more filled up, a little more durable, a little less chinny. So yeah, I got Pereira winning this one and still. But I hope to be wrong. I pray to the MMA gods that Jamahal Hill does Pereira like Izzy did. But it's not going to happen. I'm sticking with my Pereira pick this time. I learned from last time. But who knows? I could end up being wrong. This could end up like last year where I wanted Izzy to win. I picked Poatan. He got knocked out. We'll see. But I'm hyped for UFC 300. This is one of my longest card prediction videos. But this card is special. So I had to talk about this one. All the fights from top to bottom. But let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, and peace out.